Am I there? I don't know. Am I live actually this time? Because last night I recorded 40 minutes and nothing recorded. At least I was thinking in my head it was recording live and nothing was recording. So after that 40 minutes, I was exhausted and I was just like, you know what? I can't do a redo tonight. So here I am today trying to do a do-over of last night's subject matter. Although I was able to get one other talk topic in yesterday. If you didn't get a chance to go back and see it, it was a topic matter. It's my babe. Hi, babe. Bye, babe. It was a topic matter regarding living with people who don't believe you or didn't believe you and your traumatic violation story, and or who didn't know, but who you feel didn't protect you, or who might have suspected something but didn't protect you, and then now you're living with them. Like maybe you grew up and you came back to live at home, or you never left home, or you're just having general family reunions, like all kinds of things where you have to still interact, weddings, baby showers, all kinds of things where you're like, your life is still crossing paths with people who you may have felt bore some responsibility, or should have been there to protect you, or don't believe you, which pretty much is the same. But I mean, if they don't believe you, there's a special interest on their part, usually for why they're not believing you. Like people are just not believable. Yes, there are pathological liars in the world, yes, but the majority of people are telling you, with regards to traumatic violation, are telling you the truth. Like they're telling you their heart, they're telling you their pains. That doesn't always erupt in a manner in which we can deal with, you know, which society can deal with or handle or manage, and they try to micromanage how that happens. And in some cases, people had their own storms. They had their own traumatic situations that they were emotionally not capable or able to express or deal with at the time that those things happened to you. And now years have gone by and you're bringing it back to the table and they're just like, yo, I'm not ready to consume this right now. I'm not ready to deal with this right now. And so those types of counter maneuvers or countermeasures are taken, like not believing you. So anyways, I talked about that yesterday. I'm sure I will go back and discuss more about that in a future topic, not too far off future topic, because I'm trying to get all this out. I mentioned to you before, these are things that I have discovered over the course of my 15-year restoration process, and I have written many booklets and little tracks about this, and we do have a series coming out based on all of these topics and all these subject matters, living with TV. So if you are interested in today's topic, I encourage you to be patient with me. My fibro is flaring up and I sometimes have little mental fogs, but listen, just because we have some mental distress or some special need does not mean like we're totally valueless and worthless and useless and nobody deserves to hear what you have to say and nobody needs to invest in you and your future. Like you still have value and you still have worth and you still bring something to the table. So I hope that if nothing else, I can be an inspiration to those who feel that way. It's something that we carry when we struggle with the issue of being normal, which is what we're talking about today. What the fuck is normal? You know what I meant to say, right? But, you know, I'm trying to, garter the mouth. So what the flying flock is normal? People are always talking about normal. Like, that's just not normal. That's not like normal. You hear people just kind of offhandedly saying it as if there is some general norm, right? Some general expectation of normal. But what is it really? Okay, so today I'm going to peel back the social perception of normal versus the reality of what is normal. Because we as traumatic violation survivors really struggle with this aspect of the process of restoration. And in order to be open to some of the insights that I present, as I spoke about before, you kind of have to take what you already have been exposed to and what you've already adopted as truth or belief and kind of make it flexible up here and determine. There's a lot of sunlight. It's a beautiful sunny day, although it's really cold. So you have to kind of determine, like gauge it, like test it up against what you have been taught is normal. And these truths all have fragments and pieces which are parts of a big puzzle for you to assemble the picture of restoration for yourself. So I don't know if I told you already. See, I can't even tell now what I said yesterday and what I might have said before. So if you see me like exercising my shoulders and doing this kind of thing, it's because I had a wonderful coach named Tony O'Connor who was absolutely fabulous. On my walk when I did the 250-mile push for awareness in 2008, and he trained me that when you raise your shoulders as high up to your ears as you can, it releases stress, and literally you can feel tingling on your scalp when you're done with a series of these shoulder exercises. You know, you kind of bring them up there and literally you can feel the scalp tingling. But it is a stress reliever, and because I have vertigo and Tourette, I try to keep all of this neck muscle as loose as possible. And so you might find me moving my shoulders a lot and things like that. My tics are just, you know, I try to bleed them in to not make people feel uncomfortable, but they are what they are, okay? I used to be online doing talks, and people used to criticize me for my facial tics, and I used to like just run away from that, and I used to buckle to social pressures. Now, I don't give a flying fuck, okay? So, like it or not, here I am, okay? So you get to a place where you can just be like, fuck you, I am going to continue to do me, right? So, normal, okay? Normal is conforming to a socially, politically, medical, religious standard established as a standard, or established to be, it establishes what is to be expected, okay? So whether it is medical, whether it is social, whether it is religious, academic, okay? It is a system of thought that requires one to conform to a standard, okay? It's not always a standard of excellence, I tell you that, but to a standard, a belief, an acceptable ideal that you are expected to conform to, you are expected to comply with, and that if you do that, you are considered normal. Okay, so to be normal means that you need to be able to reach a certain standard within the established norm. Yo, this is 2018. We are not back in the day. And back in the day, you were either normal, abnormal. You were like one or the other. But the fact of the matter is, society and this internet has created the reality that, yo, normal is completely fragmented, right? Normal is really relative to who is identifying the norm. Okay, if you go to church, right, what happens in church, in a Baptist church versus what happens in a Lutheran church versus what happens in a Pentecostal church versus what happens in a Catholic church, these are subnorms, right? There is normal Christianity. Then there is the type of normal Christian that you are, okay? So you might be a Muslim. Then there are different types of Muslims, right? Different types of Muslim belief sets. You have those who are dogmatic, you know, and those who are, you know, who have more flexible belief sets, who are more fundamental or not as fundamental. You have these break-offs within normal. It's like we talk about traumatic violation, and that's this bubble. And I said the other day, if you haven't experienced traumatic violation, don't expect to be a normal traumatic violation survivor. But if you have experienced traumatic violation and you do not have some sort of condition that resulted in that, you're not normal. And that seems so weird because we have an idea that normal has nothing to do with traumatic violation. In fact, we are abnormal. We are the ones on the outside of normal, right? But that's not the truth. That's not the truth, because there is a normal standard within traumatic violation. So once you have been impacted and impaled by traumatic violation, what you were pre-traumatic violation no longer exists, okay? Who you have become and who you will grow to be and who you will rebuild and restructurize and bring to your future includes traumatic violation. So when we strive as traumatic violation survivors to be normal, what are we actually saying? What do we actually want? What do we actually think we need by saying that? What do we see in other people that we want so desperately to be able to have, that we call and identify that thing that we see as normal? What is that thing? I will tell you what that is. Even if it isn't something you see in someone else, you might reflect on who you were before traumatic violation. And you were that person, and you might see outside and you think that person doesn't live with shame. That person is not waking up with the distress that I wake up with. That person is not, I want to be the person that is not carrying this pain over day after day. I want to be the person that is not ashamed. I want to be the person that doesn't hide in the shadows of depression. I want to be the person that is not consumed by the heartache and the loneliness and the exile and the alienation and the rejection and I want to be the person that is without that. What you're asking for and what you're pleading for is that. You want to be that. You want to be free of all of that, because that to you is normal. That's what it was before it happened, right? Or before all those things may have happened. Or before you began to have responsibilities that created even more, that compounded your trauma even more. Because you indulged in things and you agreed to things and you made unhealthy or unwise choices, and now it's compounded you even more, and it's immobilizing what you feel you have the opportunity to go back and re-achieve some sense of normalcy, right? So when you want to be normal, that's what you want. You want a life without that. You want a life pre that. You don't want the life post that, because you don't know how to live with that. And you malfunction with that. And it's a great underlining distressor in your day-to-day function, in your day-to-day life, always stressing to repress. It's hard. It's stressful to not stress. It is very stressful to not have to be stressful. It is. Some of you know it's true. That's why you refer to other things to try to help minimize the stress in being someone who isn't stressed. And that's stressful. So you do other things. You indulge in other things to try to bring that down, whether that is wine, whether that is cigars, whatever, some guilty pleasure, right? Or what society considers a guilty pleasure. You do these things to try to decompress because the actual work involved in not being stressful is stressful. Depression and avoiding depression and applying skills when you achieve them to minimizing depression is work, and it's additional work to the work you do out for other people, for an employer, or even for yourself if you're self-employed. You have that work to do, and then you have this extra emotional work, this extra mental work, this extra personal work that if you don't do it, you know this thing could strip away your job, your family, and everything that you care so deeply about. And so for some of us who don't know how to apply the skills, who don't know even where to go and get those, who don't know where to start, right? So if you don't have that, you seek out alternate things to compensate for the fact that it's going to exist and it's going to keep underneath of the surface. It's going to still be doing what it does underneath of the surface. The mind is still doing what it does, but you need acceptance. You need to be embraced. You need to be loved. You need to be as who you are. That's very difficult, right? It's hard to find the footing in society as a traumatic violation survivor. We are the 1/3 trying to fit into what we perceive is normal in the 2/3. Let me explain to you something about the 2/3, which is the same as what's relative to the third, right? And the fact is that these fundamental fragmentations that happen with what is considered norm, because you have a base absolute, okay? Consider it like the end of this, I'm an artist, so I have paintbrushes. The end of this paintbrush is like the axis. This axis and all of norms revolve around this axis of absolute truth, okay? A lot of people say there's no such thing as absolute truth. Well, there is absolute truth. Like, it's absolute truth that what we define in term as gravity is holding me down in this chair. This chair and I are being held down to the floor. The floor and the ground and the house being held down to the earth. Okay, so this is an absolute truth. It doesn't matter what you label it. It's going to continue to do what it does in its natural state. It is absolutely functioning as it should, okay? Unless I do something to implement countermeasures against gravity, like flying or any other thing, moonwalking, whatever, to produce countermeasures, then gravity is going to keep doing what it does. And even with the countermeasures, you're only given so much limitations within that, because gravity still has to tangle with your counter maneuvers, your evasive maneuvers, right? How you're trying to go against that thing. So that is an absolute truth. The way the universe is suspended into the air, in part these force fields, right, are keeping it all suspended. Gravity plays a role in that too. Where the moon is positioned, where the sun is positioned, heat and cold temperatures are creating these barriers and these forces that go on to make sure that time keeps moving and orbits and rotations in life keep playing out, right? So these are absolutes. there are lots of absolutes within humanity too, within life in general. So these are the core things. And then around that, we then put meat on the bones. What's the meat on the bones? These things which we in our individual uniquenesses and in our subcultures and in our diversities will now go ahead and put meat on the bones of absolute truth, which is why you find it all across the world. There are some absolute truths, right? And then some common denominators of truth. And then you have the extras, right? So you have religious doctrines, you have social teachings, you have laws, you have all these things, and they create new networks of normal. These little subcells, right? So think of it as one big thing, okay? For us, it's traumatic violation. And within that, you have the subcells of traumatic violation type. You have child abuse, you have child neglect, you have child sexual assault, you have sexual assault for adult women and men, you have sexual assault for men, you have sexual assault for women, you have domestic violence him, domestic violence her, you have all these sub fragments or microcosms, okay, of traumatic violation, but within the whole of traumatic violation. So there's common truths that occur once you are inside of that, okay? There are common denominators. We share common denominators. If we share those common denominators, we have experienced traumatic violation. Someone out here in this other microcosm, okay, who may not have experienced traumatic violation, but maybe some other survival experience, they don't fit into this. There's not a way for them to conform in this arena, in this microcosm, in this reality, scope of reality. Then there are certain standards by which we live, and there are certain standards of acceptance, and there are certain standards of truth, and there are beliefs that are held within each normal, right? Each one that is norm. So a lot of times within that, you get, dare I say, like me, mixed versions, right? Mixed versions. Because with regards to traumatic violation, you're getting people who are, think of it like in a school, feeders, right? You're getting people who are coming in from other areas of normal life, because traumatic violation is non-discriminatory and it hits everybody, right? Every class, every economic status, you name it. It hits, everyone is vulnerable, okay? So by the time they join this, dare I say, club of normalcy, this equation of normalcy, by the time they've entered that, they're coming in from places, from other norms, okay? And the norm that they were living in now doesn't recognize them as the same norm. They're not the same norm anymore. They might be Christian, but they're a Christian traumatic violation survivor, right? You can't change that even if you don't talk about it, even if nobody knows it. In here knows. And you have shifted your system, and everything that you are has made that shift to being inside of here. And so with that, you bring the truths that came from there, okay? And you carry that into here. And some of those might contradict traumatic violation restoration. Some of them might. So you have to figure out how to work through traumatic violation restoration, having carried former norms into this new status of norm, okay? Let me go back for just a second. What we have established is what is normal. But how is norm achieved? How is norm achieved? Well, you're born into normal. You're not normal. You're born into normal. Okay? Let's talk about normal pregnancy. Let's go way back. Okay? Normal pregnancy. Now, does a man have normal pregnancy? No, but he may have a partner who is having a normal pregnancy. Thereby, he is a normal man who has a partner who's having a normal pregnancy. What identifies a normal pregnancy? Remember, it's you conforming to a set of standards which have been established for expectation to be met. Okay, so let's think about this. Things are going well in the pregnancy, and then somewhere along the way, her ankles are swelling, she's pre-diabetic, for pregnancy, like other things in the equation of her body and her anatomy and her biology are changing the circumstances of what is norm for a normal, healthy pregnancy. So now we've shifted to a normal, high-risk pregnancy. See, she's in a new category of norm, a whole new category. Can she live the pregnancy, the period of the pregnancy, acting like she is having a normal pregnancy, or must she observe and respect the new dynamics, the new aspect entered into the equation of being high risk? If she doesn't, and she continues to pursue the pregnancy as if she did not have some high risk situations, she could lose the baby and or her life. So it's very important to understand that when you fit into a new category of norm, right? And now she has to apply the treatment for the new norm. So maybe she needs extra vitamins. Maybe she has to get off her feet. Maybe she has to go on leave at work. Maybe she has to be bedridden. Like there's whatever the prescription for to address the new norm is, right? And the only way for her to shift back to the other way, if she ever does, even if taking the precautions, there might not be enough time for her to actually make the shift before delivery date. She may have to be bedridden the remainder of the pregnancy, where another mother is out there running, flying in the skies. Like, she's in a different category of norm. Okay. I'll give you another example. I just recently had surgery, like literally a week ago. And was it a week ago? Oh my gosh. It's like maybe 7 or 10 days ago that I was out of the hospital. So I went in for what was considered a routine procedure. Okay. Looking at my time. Okay, I'm good. I went in for what was considered a routine procedure. I had to have a precancerous polyp removed from my intestine, from the upper portion of my intestines. So as I am in there preparing to be sedated, the doctor is going over all of the normal expectations for having this type of outpatient procedure and what's to be expected. Okay, now expectations and these parameters are defined again by what the social parameters of norm, how they've been identified, right? So you take a group of people who have experienced the same procedure as me, and the majority of them are going to have said experience, and that identifies the norm. That is the norm. Then everything after that becomes microcosms of the norm. Okay, fragments of the norm. So he looks over at me and he says, 1 in 700 case where, chance where your intestine could be perforated. And a perforated intestine means your stool and your gases and your juices are spilling out into the cavity of your body, could make you very, very sick, be very excruciatingly painful, and could lead to death. Okay, so it's 1 in 700 chance. Now, while I'm being drugged, I look over at him and I say, so What number am I? Well, there's no way to know that. Just like there's no way to know if you are going to encounter traumatic violation. There's no way for him to say, oh, well, you're number 700. But guess what? Bitches, I was probably 700 because my ass was sick, okay? I came out literally, oh my gosh, me contain myself. I came out and I went home and the doctor's like, yeah, there shouldn't be any pain. You should be fine. Procedure went well, yada, yada, yada. I get home and the pain was real. And if you're a woman who has had birthing experiences, and I've had 5 live births, and let me tell you, it's like having 5 live births at one time. That was incredibly painful. Okay. And so I fell into a new norm. Now, I could have just stayed home and been like, you know what? I had a normal outpatient procedure. There's no reason anything is wrong with me. I'm just going to stay my ass here until this thing passes. Well, I would have been the one passing, okay? I would have been the one passing away. So it is good to understand that when new parameters come into play, you need to take different actions. You need to take different steps in your life to spare your life, to preserve your life. Right? This is survival instinct. Taking these precautionary measures, sure. But even with the best of precautionary measures and with the best surgeons involved, I still was 1 in 700. Okay? So that's another example. And that's an example of the different norms. Now, it could have been a situation where they were like not knowing how to treat me. But because there is a microcosm of norm that identifies what happens when it goes wrong, when it goes disastrous, right? Then they know how to treat that based on those understandings, which is why reporting things is really important. And why talking till someone listens is really important, because how does anyone know how to create the solution unless they know the depth of the problems, right? And then you have you can get 5 doctors in the room and they have all specialized in this and might have different opinions about how to proceed with this new set of norms, okay? But because there are certain standards that are in place and that there are other procedures that have looked similar to this one, they kind of pair you up with the ones that you match and say, okay, well, it worked in case. Same with the law. Same with the law. In case of this one and in case of that one, the law shifts and moves, right? This is called adaptation. So how is norm established? Through adaptation. You're born into norm. You're not born into that person's norm over there in Saudi Arabia. You're not born to the norm in Egypt. You're not born to the norm in the Netherlands, in Ireland, in the UK. You're born in America. So already, before you've even taken your first breath, you've come under some new norm law. And that adds into your equation of norm. So you come with your own norm. That's what I'm getting at here. You come with your own set, your own equation of norm. And you are born into a family, or at least to an individual you are born. And she has imparted her norm. And whoever the other contributing party was imparted parts of their norm biologically, right? Because the fact of the matter is, adaptation, to adapt, the process of becoming, it means that it is the process of becoming biologically suitable for the said conditions, for the said terms and conditions. When you are physically, mentally suitable for that, you have adapted. You have adapted to the norm, whatever that norm is. I was born into traumatic violation. I mean, literally born on my the third day of being alive, my life was nearly smothered. to death. Someone put a pillow over my bassinet, okay, and tried to kill me. That's another story. But I was born into traumatic violation. It was already pre-existing. The conditions for me were already pre-existing. And for a lot of traumatic violation survivors of different types, the conditions are already set. Now, there are other conditions where you're born into a healthy environment. You're born into a healthy family, a stable situation, right? And then perhaps someone close to you, but outside of that environment, but connected to that environment, violates you. Maybe once, maybe more than once, maybe over years. You are adapting with what you were born into and with what is embedded into you, impacted and impaled and transmitted into you, which is traumatic violation. And if no one around knows, you are developing and you continue to adapt with that. You cannot move forward without it. This whole idea of, okay, so it happened to you, we can all just move forward. Let's just move forward with your life. Well, that's ridiculous. If you woke up today and you're breathing, you're moving forward. Okay? You're not moving backwards or you'd be dead. The reality is, this is not something that you can separate from your being. Okay? You add color to this water, you can purify the water, but the color may remain. There are things you can add to change the color back to clear. It's like some scientific thing. It's kind of cool. Just check it out. With the average traumatic violation survivor, you need to understand that this is part of your psyche. This is part of how you, I want to say that this is even more pronounced when you have gone years without talking about the traumatic violation that happened to you or working through the traumatic. You're still going through it. You will go through it whether you like it or not. Resistance is futile, okay? But you can assist yourself with knowledge, skills, and tools to apply to countermeasures, right? Countering gravity. You can counter the realities of what it's doing to you, and it will continue to do to you. If you are infected with HIV, if you are infected with an STD, a lifelong STD, if you are infected with any other health debilitating or health impacting or health altering condition, right? If you are impacted with that, you will live with it all your life. So ignoring it or pretending that it doesn't affect you or affect your life, or pretending that it doesn't touch anyone else connected to you, including and especially your children, is just not healthful. And I mean that literally, healthful. It's not healthy and it's not helpful. Not if you're wanting what it is that you say you desire out of life. Not if it is that you are struggling and fighting to say, I want to be normal. Not if you're trying to get out of this, right? There are risks involved in denial. And those risks manifest in really, really destructive ways. Really, really destructive ways. And a lot of you know what those ways are because you're in them right now. You're experiencing them right now. So you become suitable for these terms and conditions. I'm an American woman. I'm a mixed American woman. I'm culturally diverse. My tongue, my palate is even culturally diverse. I can maneuver and grow forward, right, with this comprehension of what is happening to me, with some acceptance and some resolve, the fact that my system adapted to a series of norms. And within those norms, I adapted to other norms, but not without what is in me. Because I am ever evolving. I am every day I wake up, it's a new version of me, right? I get to either magnify it or diminish it. These are my options. And I can allow what happened to magnify me and give me an opportunity to magnify, or I can allow it to diminish me. Because it is a two-part scenario. There is the core fundamental you, right? The absolute truth is you are always you, right? You got this fingerprint, which has repeated since you were in the womb. It has been the same fingerprint, but not the exact same fingerprint, because today it's a little bit different than yesterday. It's growing older. It is generating, regenerating, and then it is also degenerating, because that is the process of life. We generate, we regenerate, and then we degenerate, right? Start off with this hyper generation process in the womb, right? And then we are regenerating life, reprocreating life, transferring the information that is within us, beyond us, withholding information that is within us, that should be beyond us. Procreation is in many forms. It's a whole nother subject matter. I'll try to stay on norm. So then we begin to degenerate. The degenerative process can be enabled. Traumatic violation is a deconstructive aspect of life. It is for you to use your absolute self, right? The core components of who you are, to use countermeasures to counter the effects of traumatic violation. You got to know what those are. You got to know what you're working with to do the work. You got to get some tools. You know what I'm saying? You got to get some tools. Those tools are available. Some people misconstrue or misrepresent because money is behind it. You know, you're trying to make some money. So long as there's a condition in the world, money is to be made. It is very unfortunate. And there are people who are out there leeching upon traumatic violation survivors for the last little bit of economic survival that they have. We all know that if you're a traumatic violation survivor, unless you've kept your mouth shut and made it to the top, continuing to feed into the belief sets of traumatic violation, and you surrender to some shit, then the fact of the matter is you're probably economically collapsing. You probably experience economic distress on a regular basis. These are consequences a lot of times, which another subject matter, about how you're charged as a violation survivor, how your energy is charged and how people treat you, whether they know it or not, because we are sending out energy all the time. Can you feel my energy? Hey, you feel that? I sent it out. I hope you received it. So this exchange, this give and take is happening all the time. You're sitting there on your phone and you're going through stuff. It's making you happy or it's not. You know, instantly you're adapting to all these feelings. You could have 150 emotions in like 5 minutes. You just scroll through Facebook or scroll through Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it is that the millennials are doing. Because my ass is old. So whatever it is that they're doing, and however you are emotionally connecting, right? We are creatures of attachment. We are pack creatures. We are social. Okay, whether we are antisocial or butterfly social, we're still social because we're still connected. There's no way that there's anything in your house that is there without the outside world. So see all this art hanging out in my space? Like, I'm not a rich person. I'm not rich. I made that shit. I painted this house. I painted this room. Like, it's what you touch. It's what life you put into your surroundings. Okay? Because you have to make this personal investment. You have to establish the worth, because nobody out there is really going to be able to identify that for you. They might look back and say, oh, you know what? That is great. This person is doing really wonderful things, or this person is not doing very good. Like, whether you're doing something constructive or whether you're doing something destructive, nobody outside, you get 150 different. I used 150 already. You get 500 different perspectives about who you are. The core of who you are and the core truth of that rests inside you. It resides inside here. So it's for you to do the work of establishing and identifying and discovering what that is. And when I say work, see, I didn't say like examine, because you can examine something and assess it very quickly. It doesn't take much time and doesn't, but to do the work means that you got to sweat over it a little bit. You got to produce something, right? Talk about doing the work later. Sometimes these subject matters, they just kind of feed into one another. And I just want to stick with this. Normal. So I want to tell you something. Shh, it's a little secret. Guess what? You're normal. Okay? You're a normal traumatic violation survivor. And you are like so many of us in this circle of life. Okay? We have our circle of life. And to really discover what is your most powerful resource, you can't keep looking at another set of norms for the solution. You got to look inside here. See how we are interacting. See how we are engaging. And traumatic violation survivors, I implore you, no matter where you are in the restorative process, do not look at another survivor and condemn them for what they are or aren't doing because you think you could do it better or this way or that way, or they are misusing this or misusing that, or they're doing this or they're doing that. They are in their stage. If that stage is hog wild crazy, if that stage is on a stripper pole, if that's you don't really have any place to be making judgments because you wallowed in your own shit in your way and they will do it in their way. The best that you can do is try to do some encouragement. Try to say, hey, let's see if we can look at this a different way. What do you want? Start with what you'd rather have, what you'd rather see. Who do you envision yourself to be? What does that look like? So you can begin to rebuild in that direction, okay? It's not about going back to something that was pre-traumatic violation. This is post-traumatic violation. Welcome. This is it. You have arrived. It is unfortunate, but here you are. Hey, my condition that I had was quite unfortunate. But here I am, okay? Here I am. I actually lived through that. People don't live through it. Some do, but a lot of people don't. Do you know how many things as traumatic violation survivors could have taken us out of here? Do you know how many things? You know how many people that I laid up under I could have died at the hand of? Do you know how many different times my life just could have been over, but I'm still here. Still here gives me the opportunity to talk to you, to do what it is I'm compelled to do, right? You let people try to define whether or not you're allowed and give you validation for whether or not you're permitted to do something. Are you freaking serious? If you wait, you'll be dead. The fact of the matter is you adapt or die in life, okay? You adapt or you die. That's it. So once you've adapted and once you have gotten on the road to restoration and you have maximized all that is the best version of your everyday, and you have used and put forward that every day, you can't help but have progress. You can't help it. Are you going to have setbacks? You better believe it, and lots of them. But you know what? The more you progress, the more you evolve through the restorative process, the less you have them, and the more in the fewer and far in between they become. That's how it works. And that's how you gauge your progress. The distance, the time between. Listen, if you have children, or you've raised someone's children, or you've had to babysit someone's children, or even if somebody was sick around you or something and you had to watch them get healthy, I mean, how do you gauge progress? How do you gauge whether or not it's getting better? You gauge it by saying, okay, my symptoms are decreasing. Like, I'm feeling a little better today, or maybe I got a new symptom as a result of treating the one symptom, and now I have to deal with that. But hey, you know what? That one's diminishing too. It's a minimizing, minimization, reduction. These are how we gauge progress. Okay, you might still be puking. Okay, by puking, I'm talking about regurgitating your truth, right? You got to find safe space and place to do that, people to do that with. You might still be doing that. You might be doing that for years, okay? Because this condition is deep. It's deep. And just like people go for radiation treatment, exposure to certain types of chemicals and circumstances which make them sick, yeah, that happens for us too. So we might be regurgitating this for a long time, and then eventually you realize, you know what? I feel different when I'm regurgitating. Like, I don't feel as sick, like I'm not shivering, or I'm not having a hot sweat, or my anxiety has decreased. Like, there are different things. Or maybe right afterwards, I don't go into immediate depression. Like, I used to talk about it and then I'd be really, really depressed, and maybe talking about it would make me feel good, but I'd be so exhausted, I'd want to sleep for 3 days. And like, you begin to realize that, hey, like, I'm in a place now where I can talk to you about the circumstances that I endured and the restorative process that I underwent, and I went through, right? and feel okay. Like, I feel my norm. I feel healthy. I feel okay about doing that. But there was a time where just talking about it, like, now I can get drained, emotionally drained, because my passion and my energy, like I stress in a positive way to get this out. So I'm still going to have some physical ramifications because I still live with certain conditions, stripped of some of the emotional, negative or degrading stuff. I still going to have my biology, my normal biology at work. So, you might have these different encounters and different experiences, and you got to gauge them as you go along. How are they changing? Pay attention to the little differences, right? Because that establishes the fact that you're transitioning your norm, right? You're not remaining in that worst case state. You're increasing your conditions. Your conditions are improving, right? And you're improving still within traumatic violation. You will never leave the scope of having been a traumatic violation survivor. That is your truth for the rest of your life. What you want to do is create a legacy around that that lives in a throne state, right? In a place of fantastic. I'll give you an example. It has to be quick because my hour is up. But I got a few minutes because I started a couple minutes late. So listen. My daughter is into this DNA thing, right? She's into family lineal history, and we are mixed people. We have Native American in us, we have African American in us, we have Irish in us, like some German, some Swedish, like we have like a bunch of stuff in us, right? So she is so interested in this what is it? Oh, it's genealogical research thing that she does online. DNA and me, or 123 and me, or I don't know. But anyways, I am spitting in a cup for my birthday because I do want to find out more. But anyway, she's into all of this, right? And so she was looking into our history, and she found that we had like some distant relative who used to do prohibition alcohol, and how he had his basement raided and all the liquor was spilled out and they blew up the basement and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, it's like an interesting piece of information. Oh, and she found some bakers, some professional bakers in there. Lord knows we love to cook. We do love to cook. So, I mean, it was really interesting. It was like, wow, you know, this genetic thing is really strong, because like we're writers and we're artists and we're like all these things that seem to be a dominant career paths within our genealogy. So I found that to be very interesting, because it was nice to get a little sneak peek of their life. And I also saw some things that looked really concerning and distressing, like people who had gone through some serious trauma, some people who had served in wars, some people who had amputations. Like it was amazing. And in a way, we want that. Okay, we keep doing that. Since the times of mankind, we have been talking about our ancestors. We have been talking about so-and-so who was a carpenter, who was a this, who was married to a this, who was a that, who was a this, who was a that. Like, we value our history as a humankind, right? We value that. So much so that it's been written on the walls of tombs, and it is written on the walls of cities, on pillars. Like, history is preserved, and then other history is destroyed, right? But it's that meaningful for us that we want it to continue. We want the information to continue, but we also try to control that information. We've had histories erased and annihilated, and we don't know the full truth because it was changed. The truth was changed by people who didn't want you to know it was a certain way. Like, that happens. It happens throughout history, right? So his story and her story are very important. And now I'm in that same position. Like, here I am. Hi, I'm talking videos to you, right? Like, one day I'm gonna be a real old woman, Lord willing. But maybe not, right? Maybe this is my last video. I said that before. Thank goodness I'm still here. But you never know, right? In this restoration thing, you don't know how long you get. And our stress and our consequences of traumatic violation, they intensify our biology, our original composite. They compound the use of this being, this vessel. Like, we go endure more duress, and this can create cancers. This can create early death. Okay, where maybe biologically our families live long, but maybe because we endured so much and we haven't been able to find the skill sets or apply the tools necessary to minimize that, we carry it for so long in an unhealthy fashion, rather than, you know, venting it and giving it the proper medicines that it requires and the proper treatments that it requires, including self-treatment, you know, just applying yourself differently. And without doing that, we shorten our lifespan. We shorten it. And what do we want the legacy to say? I would love for my children's children to be like my daughter now, who's and they find out some little blurb about me, that all of the things that I had gone through, that's why I won this garden. You know what I mean? That's why, that's my vision, that's my dream. That's what I want to give birth to. I want the pains and the transgressions that were done to my sister, who did not survive our circumstances as children. I wanted to be able to give her voice and our love a legacy, and to be able to have people come all over the world to plant their pains and let roots of transformation just grow throughout this acreage. And when you walk in there, you know that this is a symbol of something so transformative. This is a symbol of that traumatic violation, that circle of life that we live in, that, hey, We can turn our pains into gains. We can make something that seemed so destructive and so corrosive become something so beautiful, right? And we can birth life out of death. We have the power to do that. That's what we can do. I want to leave that piece of legacy, right? Some people build museums. Some people want to have a dental office. This guy down the road has an amazing dentistry. Oh my goodness, if I was a kid, I would totally go there. Like, he's got arcades in there and all kinds of stuff. That was his vision, right? That was his dream. Some people want to build huge towers, the largest tower. Some people want to be the ones who are inventing the next type of automobile. I don't want to call it an automobile. The next type of shuttle that goes to Mars. You know, like, some people want and have their visions and their passions, and we as traumatic violation survivors just want the opportunity and the chance to say we count, we matter, we bring something to the table, we have value, we have worth, right? You want to be able to not be rejected, but to be embraced and accepted despite traumatic violation, because that would make you feel normal, right? Be the best that you can be with your conditions, whatever they are, and you will be the best version of a normal traumatic violation survivor that you could ever be, right? You just do your personal best and adapt, grow beyond the circumstances of the depth of traumatic violation. Grow beyond that. It's work, right? A garden is work. Takes shit to grow gardens, you know what I mean? That's the metaphor. That's the symbol. I would love for traumatic violation survivors to walk through and see these dedications and these memorials and say, wow, all this pain, but yet look at the life that continues to inspire and heal other people. Listen, that's an amazing legacy for me. For other people, it's something else. They want to do a movie. They want to do a song. They want to, you know, make it big on Wall Street, like whatever it is for you. That's what mine is, right? Establish what it is so you can grow towards that. What is it? What is it that you're saying is normal, right? You can obtain it and you can reach it as a normal traumatic violation survivor. You have to redefine the parameters, right? You have to adapt through these circumstances. That is, I mean, you don't have to. You can stay black and die, as they say. You know what I mean? You don't have to. But is that contradicting what you desperately desire to manifest in your life? Right? So if you want something different, you do have to do something different. So anyways, that's my hour. I will be back tonight with another talk topic. We are talking till someone listens, and we are encouraging you to talk till someone listens. Talk therapy is so important, but also walk therapy, like walking what you talk, doing what it is that you say, living. Trust me, anything that I'm sharing with you, I have been through the gamut, okay? And I will apply for the rest of my life because it's got me here so far. I struggle with depression. I struggle with anxiety. Tonight we're talking about, you know, aren't we talking about sexual hyper vigilance in the bedroom? So if that's an issue that you also have to cope with and you would want to stay tuned to that series or that episode as well as part of the Talk Till Someone Listens series. So if you're interested in the gardens, please, the Historic Walk of Love Memorial Gardens has a GoFundMe page on GoFundMe. Listen, if you're gonna buy a burger from McDonald's or a shake from Arby's or a cigar from your local retailer or a cocktail or a bottle of wine for your house or whatever, could you sacrifice one? Could you sacrifice one of something? You know, I know it's tax time and I don't want to feel like yeah, okay, you know what? I'm willing to beg for it. Yeah, I am. I'm willing to beg for it. Please help us. Please help us try to create and build this restorative garden. Yeah, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So blessings, and all you do, be well and make healthier choices. Take good care.